So we're going to come down into Shavasana, nice rested pose, which we've been doing this week. I'm going to start with my legs high. As some of you will have already heard me say, that's just an easier place to get my pelvis into a neutral position. With the legs lengthened out, my pelvis just tilts forwards a little bit. My back arches, my chest and my ribs flare up towards the sky. And it just puts that extra little bit of stress into the body that isn't needed. So it doesn't serve me, but that's my body shape. You know, that's not going to really change too much. Even after 20 years of yoga, it's still pretty much doing the same thing. Some people will be able to lie down on the floor and take the legs out to the corner edges straight away, and it's going to feel marvelous. So whatever works for you. You're going to let the hands come out to the side, palms face up, and we're closing the eyes and just settling the breath. Now we're trying to get the breath to resonate from low down in the belly and feel like it smoothly moves through the body into the collarbones. And we're doing that just to calm the nervous system and the mind. Let the heart rate drop a little bit. I'm going to begin to gently bring the heels back in towards the bottom so the knees are high. I'll take the arms out a little wider in order to sort of crucifix stage. And I'm going to just shift the hips a little over to the left and let the knees down to the right. I'm going to try and let the body be loose and soft. Let the hips roll away from me. If it feels nice to turn the head the opposite direction, that's great. If you want to just keep the eyes looking towards the ceiling, that's fine. And I'll bring the knees back up again. To the center, realign, and just let ourselves move over to the second side. And we'll come back into the center, reset the hips, and bring the feet together, touching close into the bottom. And draw the right knee into the chest, and take the hands around the shin, if possible, otherwise the back of the thigh. I'm just going to guide that knee gently towards the armpit on the right side. Just using a little bit of very progressive strength being applied to draw that knee a little bit closer in. And we're going to lengthen the left leg out. I'm going to point the toes away today. Draw the belly down into the spine a little bit and see if you can lift your left foot just an inch off the floor. Keep extending the toes out. And we'll release and bring the feet back towards the bottom. We'll swap over to the second side. So just adjust and wriggle around till we feel good. And start to draw that left knee. So starting to get a feeling of stretch in the muscles as we progressively apply more weight through the arms. It's a gradual increase. We're trying to relax the muscles so that we can get that extra bit of movement. And then we'll draw the belly into the spine again as we lengthen out the right leg. Point the toes away. Lift the foot just a little off the ground. And we say an inch, but yeah, who's to know what an inch is when you can't see the foot? And then we'll release. Bring the feet back in. And take the feet about hip distance apart this time. You can draw the right knee in towards the chest. Take the hands and interlace them around the back of the thigh, low down by the groin. And then we're going to press slowly the right heel up towards the sky with the foot flexed and spreading the toes. So we'll feel that around the back of the shoulders possibly as well. Now, depending on how long your arms are in relationship to your body, your foot will either be moving away from you, or it will seem like it's moving towards you, or it might be just pointing directly up towards the sky. The combination of your body and the length of your hamstrings. Just working towards what feels straight in your body. We'll slide the left heel out. And with this time, we'll flex that foot so toes come towards us and up towards the sky. We're spreading the toes out on both feet as much as we can. A lot of energy going through those legs. And then we'll release. Bring the feet back in, and we'll just take it to the second side again. So just remember to set the feet up hip distance apart. That left leg comes in. We'll take a little bit of time to get the hands in the right place for us. And then we slowly extend the leg out and spread the toes. So we spend about half a minute working on one leg, and then about half a minute with two legs. And then we'll lengthen that right leg out. And flex and spread toes. And then we'll release from that. Bring both feet together again, close into the bottom, take the arms out wide. With those knees high, we'll take a little breath and then zigzag the toes out to the corner edges of the mat, keeping the knees high. We're going to scissor the legs into that spiral over to the right. So bottom leg, right leg drops down to the floor, left leg kind of hangs in the sky a little bit. Inhale back up, and we're going to roll it over to the other side. So we're just going to see if we can follow the breath. Exhaling it down, inhaling it up, exhaling it over, inhale it up, exhale it down. Just again applying a little bit of pressure progressively to draw the legs a little closer to the floor. That gives you time to relax the shoulders and keep them on the ground. That's the theory. And then we'll come back into the center. We'll take a little breath from here. Allow ourselves to roll gently onto whichever side you like to lift, and we're going to come up onto all fours. So it's going to tuck the ankles underneath, roll myself over onto the front end of the mat, hands underneath the shoulders and spread out the fingers just so the knuckles get a little bit of a chance to get grounded. Sort of marauding a little bit from side to side through the shoulders. Making sure the knees are underneath the hips. And then when we're ready, we're going to start to take that breath forwards. Roll the shoulders back and the tailbone points to the sky. Then we tuck the tailbone down. Let that ripple through the spine. Press into the hands and the shins and draw the belly in. Inhale forwards. And exhale it out. Inhale forwards again. We're just going to do about 5 of these. Obviously, if you move a little slower or faster than me, then you might not make the same number. So I'll come forwards for the last time. Tuck the tailbone for the last time. And then allow myself to just sit back down onto the heels. I'm going to bring the body up, right? Take the arms out wide. And I'm going to bring my left arm across the chest and wrap the right arm underneath. So it's called a surface stretch. So stretching out the left shoulder. Arm is right across the chest. Using that right arm to kind of help drag the shoulder around a little bit. So starting to feel the shoulder blade separating away from the ribs a little bit in the back. And we'll float the arms out and take it across to the opposite side. And then we'll release. And we're just going to roll the shoulders around so you can draw them up towards the sky, back as you exhale down to the floor. Inhale forwards. And rolling around. You're going to get a little bit of movement through the pelvis and the spine as well as you do this. So you're trying to draw the shoulders forward as far as you can, as high up to the ears as you can. Squeeze the shoulder blades together as best you can, and then drop them down. Not saying that you don't know how to shrug your shoulders, but that's where the emphasis is. And then we'll just take that a couple of times in the opposite direction. We'll let the hands come forwards again. We'll lift up just a little bit for that phantom toe stretch that we like to do. So we tuck the toes underneath and sit onto the heels. You can keep the hands on the floor if you know that you can take a little bit of extra weight into the arch of the foot and the toes. You can come up. We'll take the hands behind and see if we can reach the elbows. We'll just bring in the hands to forearms and then walking them out. So just easing the shoulders back a little bit. And then we'll release. Going to untuck the toes, sit back onto the heels and let ourselves come into child's pose. So we're going to walk the fingers forwards and have the elbows off the ground so you get a big stretch. We'll turn the palms towards the sky, thumbs out towards the sides. A little change, but surprisingly impactful on the feeling of the stretch. And then we'll lift ourselves back up. Now my block is behind me, so I'm going to reach that and just bring that towards my toes and lean forwards, take my feet out about the same distance as the block is wide, roll the heels down onto the block so I can come into Malasana. I'm trying to bring the feet onto the corner edges, and my toes are still pretty much pointing forward. So rather than letting the knees spread out wide, I want to try and bring them in so they're mimicking the sort of direction and the distance apart that my feet are. They'll turn out a little bit unless you adjust a lot, but you can just then rest your arms on top of the kneecaps and then lift the spine up out of the pelvis, draw the belly in a little bit so you get a long spine. I'm going to ease forwards, hands come back down to the ground. I'm going to lift the bottom up towards the sky. Walk fingers to the front of the mat. I'm going to use my toes to move the block out of the way a little bit further to the back of the mat. So I'm in down dog, hopefully. I'll come into a plank, let the knees come to the floor, sit back into that child's pose. Inhale up to all fours, get a neutral spine, roll the shoulders back as I tuck the toes, press back, and let the hips lift up and backwards at the same time into that down dog. I'll come into the plank again, lower the knees, untuck the toes, sit back onto the heels, head to the floor, child's pose. Load it up, neutral spine, press the hips back and up, open up into that down dog. Come into plank, knees to the floor, sitting back gently. Easing our way up. Tabletop to down dog. Plank, knees, child's pose. And last time coming back up. I'm going to take the feet out as wide as the mat and bring the feet forwards till the heels can touch the ground. We're taking a twist. The left hand comes under and over towards the right ankle. We're trying to keep the legs straight. We're doing our best to maintain that down dog feeling in the body. Might have moved around a little bit, not a problem. We're trying to turn the chest towards the side edges of the mat. One more breath. Bring your hands to the floor. Take it over to the second side. Last breath. And bring the hands back to the floor. Let the feet come in to a more regular shape of down dog. Feet about hip distance apart. We're just walking the hands towards the toes into that forward bend. So allow yourself to have a little bend in the knees or a lot so that the ribs can actually sit down on the thighs. Allow yourself to spread the toes, keep the fingers on the floor, head down. Shoulders are broad. And slowly lifting the bottom towards the sky, but pressing the feet down to help with that movement. And as you do that, just check that your toes are still relaxed and you're pressing down into the feet evenly. For years, my toes used to really grip into the floor when I tried to lift the hips up a little bit more. It's not the place that we're trying to be, but it did take a long time for that to stop happening. It was just a question of getting the weight even in the feet. Now, talking of weight even on the feet, we'll bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees a little more if we need to lift up with a flat back. Ta-da! Standing at the end of the mat. So we'll just shake out the legs and the arms a little bit as we walk up to the front of the mat. Take the feet about hip distance apart. Got something in the mouth. Inhale high with the hands. Bring them through the heart. We'll exhale forwards, a long spine, soften the knees as we need to. We'll take the right foot to the back of the mat, a big step. We're going to bring the hands onto the front thigh and lift up. Take the hands out to the side and bring the palms up above the shoulders. We're going to try and lift the body up out of the pelvis. Square the hips so the front hip bones feel like they're the same distance from the front of the mat. Press a little bit into the big toe on the front foot and the back shin down. And then we're going to bring the hands down to the floor. Take a little breath. We'll tuck the toe on the back foot underneath and press the heel away to lift the knee. You're going to take the left hand away from the floor and slowly up towards the sky into a twist. Encouraging that left knee more towards the center and in towards the body. We'll bring the hand back down to the floor. Going to drop the back heel onto the ground for warrior two. Bring the hands alongside the hips and lift the body. And then slowly lifting up the cartwheel and open out. Now we're going to sink into the front thigh a little bit and extend out. Bring the forearm down, On the front hand, we'll take the top arm up towards the sky. So you start to feel the stretch a little bit more down the side of the body. We'll wrap that arm around and bring the fingertips onto the front thigh so we can open the chest a little more easily to the side of the mat. And we'll come back into our warrior two. Inhale the hands directly above the shoulders again, palms face in. Turn slowly the hips and the shoulders, and we spin on the ball of the back foot into a high crescent. We'll take a little breath, let the hands come down. Take them towards the back of the mat a little bit. Lean forwards over the front knee, push off the toes, just swing the arms forwards to help you step to the front of the mat. Inhale high, hands through the heart. Exhale slowly down to the floor. Taking the left foot back this time. Bring the hands onto that front thigh to lift. Arms out to the side. It's the low crescent. So we're reaching up, pressing down. Everything starts from the belly and lengthens out two directions. It's more of a mind-body connection. I'll bring the hands down gently to the floor. Tuck the toe on the back foot. Make sure that left hand is on the ground as we take the right hand up and out to the side, to the twist. Again, we're just encouraging that right knee in towards the body a little bit. Pressing out through the back heel, trying to make sure the back heel sticks towards the ceiling rather than rolling out to the sides. Just getting used to the twist. One more breath. Bring the hand down to the floor. Drop the heel and ready for warrior two. So bring the hands alongside your body, then lift the body. There's a little squeeze in the shoulders. Cartwheel it open into our warrior two. Look through the middle finger, both legs active. Takes a bit of time to connect the back legs sometimes, but you know when you've got there, you get a little bit of lift in the rear cheek. Now extend out over that front thigh. Forearm comes down. We take the top hand up towards the sky, a little stretch, feed it down the side of the body, wrap the arm around. Get that big twist in the chest. Still thinking about the back foot pressing down. Can lose a bit of focus as we start to work on the twist. So you'll just reset it again, re-amplify it in the body. We'll come back into our warrior two. Take the hands to the sky. Rotate around gently. Find some balance. Slowly bring the hands down. Towards the back of the mat, we lean forwards, push off the toes, help ourselves to step up to the front of the mat. Bring the hands into the heart. Exhale over the thighs, down to the floor. A cheeky little turn to page 2. We'll step back into our down dog. Now we're going to come into a pigeon pose. So we're going to draw the right knee into the chest, bring the knee to the outside of the wrist, and let the heel come underneath the groin. Walking the left foot back a little bit so we can slowly ease into this knee and ankle joint and letting the hip sink down towards the floor. We're going to bring the elbows onto the ground so the forearms are parallel, palms face in, thumbs up towards the sky. Got kind of a little robot arm thing going on. You're going to try and broaden the shoulders out, press the forearms into the floor, and lengthen the back leg away, drawing the belly in. And we'll bring the hands back in, lift ourselves up. So the toes tuck on the back, the knee lifts, draw the belly in, the hips, move towards the sky, and we step back into our down dog. We take a couple of breaths here just to reset the hands, make sure we get nice and long in our down dog, wriggle out everything that needs to stretch. We draw the left knee in towards the chest, float that through to the outside of the wrist on the left side. Heel under the groin. Allow ourselves to walk the right foot back a little bit. Just dropping the hips even closer to the floor. Take a breath. We're coming back down onto the elbows just as we did before, so that underneath the shoulders, palms face in. Little robot arms, we spread the elbows out. They don't physically move, we're just trying to sort of press down and pull the arms apart so that you can feel that tension. And lengthening out through the right leg, the muscles in the thigh will lift. You might even feel the buttocks start to engage a little bit, hopefully. Belly drawn in. Get an emphasis on spreading the shoulders out. And then we'll bring ourselves back out of that. So bring the hands back in. So lift, tuck the toe, knee lifts, shoulders roll back, belly draws in. We get to a feeling of being strong in the body before we lift, and then we can take that down dog. Now just going to walk the hands in towards the toes again, the back of the mat. And then when you finally come into the fullness of your forward fold, we're going to soften the knees and sit down into a chair. The hands come away from the floor and lengthen out. Draw the body off of the thighs and then press into the thighs to lift up. And let the hands come out to the side. So just shake it out again as we come up to the front of the mat. Set the feet hip distance apart, hands to the sky on the breath in, and coming back into the chest. We fold over the hips, we fold in, drop in the head, right foot to the back of the mat, a big step. Now we're going to take the right hand to the floor, take the left hand to the sky. Going to take the left hand towards the front of the mat and bring the hand back down on the inside of that front foot. We're going to take the right hand away from the floor towards the hip and open it up to the sky. Now the back heel still wants to press up towards the ceiling. It will want to come down to the floor like a magnet. I'm going to bring both hands down to the ground again. Now we can drop the back heel in. We'll let ourselves open up into a warrior two. Extending out again over that front thigh. Going to take a little breath. This time we're going to bring that front hand down to the floor and up towards the sky, just as we have before. We're going to take the top arm and wrap it around. And we're going to see if we can take the fingers towards the left hip joint. Somewhere between there and the middle of the thigh towards the knee. It's quite a big wrap round. Now you can either stay here with the hand on the floor, or if you want to take it a little further, you take the hand away from the ground, underneath the thigh, find the fingers, and then open the chest to the side. Bring the hips a little bit more into the center line if they've popped out to the side. So different levels we can come into. And we're not quite finished there. We're going to release the hands to the floor. Press back in to warrior two. Now that front leg is going to start to get a little bit juicy, to say the least. We're going to turn the palm on the front hand and take the reverse warrior. Come back into our warrior two. Take the hands high. Let's spin slowly to the front of the mat. Find some balance. The hands come down slowly with control. We lean over the front thigh. Swoop the arms together as we press through the toes. Because if your leg is anything like mine, it's so tired, you need the arms to get you forwards. Take the hands up to the sky again. Into the heart. Exhaling down. Taking the left foot back. We take a little breath. Left hand comes to the floor. Right hand comes to the hip and lifts up into the twist. Draw the knee into the body. Back heel towards the sky. Float the arm over towards the front of the mat, to the inside of the front leg. Slowly take your left hand towards your hip and open it out to the sky. Now this is not a small pose. Now bring the hand down to the floor. We'll drop the heel onto the center line. Bring the hands alongside the body. Let that little lift come into the torso and then cartwheel up into our warrior two. Take a little bit of time to get the legs moving down towards the floor. Get that strong foundation to work from. Extend out over the front thigh. Bottom hand comes down to the floor. Top arm towards the sky. That may be enough. I'm going to wrap the top arm around. Hand comes towards the hip and then into the middle of the thigh. So you open the chest as much as you can to the side. If you want to take it further, bottom hand draws away from the ground. We interlock some fingers. We open the chest and we lift away from the floor a little bit. Bring the hips onto the center. We can release. Bring ourselves back up into warrior two. Turn the palm for reverse warrior. Come back into warrior two. Draw the hands to the sky. Rotate the body gently. Spin on that back heel. Find your balance. When you're ready, hands come down. You lean forwards, drawing the belly in. And an exhale. So almost throw yourself to the front of the mat. Bring the hands in to the heart. Exhale down to the floor. We'll step back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. We're going to lower ourselves to the floor, so elbows into the ribs and down. As we untuck the toes, we bring the elbows forwards for Sphinx pose. Roll the shoulders back, draw the belly in, thighs down and the toes away. If you can, heels out, toes in a little bit. Make a little bit of space around the spine. A sense of drawing the hands towards you to help lift the chest high, broadening the shoulders out. Now we're going to bring the chin back down to the floor, and we've got two variations here. One is called frog pose and the other one is called bow pose. They look very similar, but they feel very different. So chin down on the ground under the hands. We'll draw both knees into a bend so the heels can come in towards the bottom. Now frog pose would be where you take the hands back onto the toes and bring the heels towards the buttocks, and we stay flat to the floor. We press the thighs down, the belly down, and the chest down. Bow pose is slightly different. So if you want to take the frog pose, you can do. If you want to take the bow pose, you'll take one hand behind, find one ankle. Take the other hand behind and find that ankle. You want to keep the knees roughly hip distance apart. And flex both ankles to get a strong connection with the hands around those flexed limbs. And then we're going to press the thighs down into the floor and press the shins towards the back of the mat. Now this will let the chest lift away from the ground. So you can already see there's a difference between a bow and a frog. You can hold that, just trying to keep the thighs on the floor, belly drawn in, shoulders squeezing back a little bit, chest lifting. Then we'll take another breath. And on the exhale, we're going to try and press the thighs away from the floor and the soles of the feet towards the sky. So we get even more of a lift. Remember to breathe. One more breath. And then we can lower everything down to the floor. Everybody releases feet wherever you're holding. Bring the hands back underneath the chin. Now I'm going to bring the toes together so they just touch, the legs, thighs are touching. And we're going to take a shoulder stretch here, prone to the floor. So I'm going to take the right hand out. I'm going to be like a little spider on my fingertips. The left hand comes underneath the shoulder, so the elbows back a little bit. I'm going to roll gently onto my right side, walking the right fingers out again, letting the head come to the floor, just stacking the hips one on top of the other, flexing the feet a little bit to lengthen out through the heels. Just lifting the chest as much as it's comfortable from the floor, once you keep the shoulder on the ground. And a release. Wiggle the fingers out so it feels like the arms come back to life. Bring both hands underneath the shoulders. And then we'll take that left hand out, again onto the fingertips. When you're ready, you press into the right hand, roll onto the sides, walk the fingers away a little bit. Let the head come to the floor. And then flex the feet when the hips feel stacked. And we're just turning the chest away from the ground as much as it feels comfortable to do in that shoulder. Now, ideally, the hand would be 90 degrees out from the body, but for some people, their shoulders might be a bit more impeded. So it's where it feels comfortable for you to do this. Palm is facing down. Legs are active. One last breath. Roll it down to the ground again. Just wriggle the fingers out till it feels like they've come back to life. Take a little breath from there. Now I'm going to roll onto my side, draw the knees in towards my chest and use my hands to press into the floor. It's the safest, nicest, easiest way to come back up. Going to move the block a little bit closer. I'm not going to use it straight away, but eventually. I'll let the legs lengthen out. And start to have the feet about hip distance apart, toes pointing forwards, and walk my bottom in towards the heels, and then just use the hands to help guide me back down to the floor. So I'm in a nice position for bridge pose. I'm going to take the hands forwards, let the shoulders come down to the ground, nice long neck. Just wrap the hands under a little bit more. Draw the belly down towards the floor, so lower back connects. Start to lift the tailbone away from the ground. Press down through the soles of the feet to lift the hips up. Pressing into the hands and the shoulders. Take a breath here. And then just roll the spine back down again, gently. Take another breath at the bottom. Draw the belly in as we begin to exhale, the little tuck and lift. It's all one really connected, smooth motion to lift us up. Try and press the thighs forwards and the buttocks forwards a little bit. On the exhale of our breath, we fold back down again. And then lifting again. Exhaling down. Got two more. Exhaling up. Exhaling down. And last time coming up. Now we'll let the knees come in towards the body and bring the hands on top of the kneecaps. And we're just going to make some nice big circles with the knees. So one knee travels out to one side, one to the opposite side, and we get a little tilt through the pelvis. It just massages it very gently. We'll take in the opposite direction. And then bring the feet back down to the floor. We'll allow the arms to come out nice and wide. Just zigzag the toes in close to the center line and into the bottom. We'll take the left leg towards the sky, flex the foot and turn the toes out. Going to bend the knee and bring that ankle to the outside, figure four. So the left knee starts to travel forwards. We keep the foot flexed. Move the hips just a fraction over to the left, and then let the legs roll down towards the right. See if we can get that left foot to touch the ground, keeping the knee high. I'm still trying to lengthen that left leg away and the left hip as well towards the front of the mat. And we'll lift the knees back again. Recenter the spine. Lengthen that left leg out. We'll do the same again to the right side. So taking the right leg up, stretch, twist the toes out, get that articulation into the hip, the foot flexed, the right knee travels towards the front of the mat. Move the hips over just a fraction to the right, just a little wiggle. Roll the feet gently over towards that left side, keeping the shoulders on the ground. Encourage a feeling of lengthening the hips away. And then we'll slowly bring the legs back up again. Recenter. Stretch out both legs this time towards the sky. We're just pointing the toes up. Getting that nice long flat back. Now we're going to bring the feet together. Bend the knees. Take them wide. Let the hands come onto the inside of the thighs. Then roll your fingers down the shins towards your ankles. Take a little breath, and then still holding on to the ankles, we're going to come into happy baby, but we're going to be happy in a happy baby to just hold on to the ankles rather than on to the feet. So we've got this really lovely flat back. Now, if you happen to be able to reach your feet and keep a really flat back, so the whole thing is connected to the ground, then by all means, take that a little deeper. It just means your knees will probably be a little closer to the ground. Try and let the lower back. It's done a lot of work today. It's done a lot of lifting, bending, stretching and pulling. You want to give it a nice easy time in this last minute. And we'll release, feet to the floor. And we're going to come into Shavasana. This time I'm going to let the legs lengthen out. If you need to put any extra layers on, by all means just roll onto your side so that you can sit up and adjust. Those fleecy blankets are quite nice to have next to the mat if you have them around in the house. They just do a nice thing to cover yourself with for the final resting pose. And then when you're ready, let those heels roll out, lengthening the legs out. Down by the side, palms up, soften the jaw as you close your eyes. And try to let everything sink down and just let a little going through the body. A little bit of yielding, a little bit of zen. we can start to gently stretch the fingers and toes, wriggling the wrists and ankles a little as well. Taking a deeper breath or two, using that energy to stretch out in any way that feels good. And then we're letting the knees travel slowly in towards the body. A little hug, gentle rock on the spine. And rolling carefully onto your right side. Taking a breath. Use the hands there, just press into the floor. Lift yourself slowly from the side, back up to sitting. Take a posture that feels comfortable to relax in. And then we'll bring the hands in towards our heart. Taking a breath deeper into the body, we can close the eyes. Begin to let the exhale take place, dropping the chin towards the chest and bowing gently to the floor, sealing our practice for the morning. On the inhale, we lift the body back up with the breath until the head lifts and the eyes open. Namaste. Have a glorious rest of the day, lovely rest of the week, and see you soon.